So, speaking of that college football, I got a comment. I got a comment in my comments section for one of the podcast segments. I think it's about the Pac. I'm pretty sure it was the Pac-12. Someone coming in talking about some Arizona State football, talking about this Arizona State team. They're going to go 7-5 and two major upsets. So it had me wondering how what should we expect from Arizona State football in 2023? Are we on the same wavelength, or is this what some people would consider a bold prediction, right? That's something that I'm really curious about. So I have the Arizona State schedule pulled up on my computer screen. I have it set up on a different screen, and I have a graphic set up for you guys, hopefully, when this podcast actually does end up coming out. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and start taking a look at what that Arizona State schedule has to offer. What does this Arizona State team have going into that 2023 season, right? So, first things first, let's talk about the Arizona State team in itself. Going into the, kind of shaky ground for the Pac-12. And to put things lightly, Arizona State didn't have maybe what they wanted in terms of a college football season. They ended up going 3-9 this year, and it's going to be interesting to see how they get to that 7-5 with two major upsets. That's another part of that conversation as well. This is an Arizona State team that went 3-9, and Kenny Dillingham, he's the coach of Arizona State. He replaces Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards is no longer with the program. Actually got fired midway through the season, if my memory serves me correctly. So Kenny Dillingham, he's the new head coach of Arizona State, and it's gonna be a rebuilding job. I think it's gonna be a rebuilding job for Arizona State this upcoming season. This should be year one of the rebuild. Because as good as Herm Edwards might have been with X's and O's, he certainly wasn't the best recruiter by any means, and that's going to set the Sun Devils program back for 2 to 3 years, depending on how they're able to utilize the transfer portal. Because with what happened last year, not only are they missing some key contributors from last year, they also lost a significant amount in the transfer portal. And I have some concerns about this offensive line as well. In fact, I can't really sit back and tell you really what is a plus for Arizona State football, at least not off the top of my head right now. So that being said, Arizona State, by FBS terms, if you compare it over the entire FBS, they'll be okay, but comparing them to the Power 5 and how good this league's supposed to be this year, it's going to be a brutal league. We'll see. We're definitely going to see, but let's go ahead. Let's jump into this schedule for the Arizona State Sun Devils here in the year 2023 as well. And we'll start with August 31st. This would be their week 1 matchup. They host FCS Southern Utah. Now, for Southern Utah, I mean, FCS team, no one in the right mind 9 times out of 10 is going to pick an FCS team to win over an FBS squad. So we're not going to be sitting here and disrespecting Arizona State, because I don't think they're going to be the worst Power 5 team in college football this year. I don't think that's going to be the case. So we'll give Arizona State a win against Southern Utah. So they'll be 1-0 going into their next matchup. Their next matchup, the following Saturday, is against Oklahoma State. They are at home for this game as well, and their first 4 games, they're actually at home, so that the start at least breaks out nicely to try to build some confidence. But for September 9th, they are going to be at home against Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma State, also a program that could be on a nosedive as well. They lost Shadir Sanders in the transfer portal. He is no longer with the team, quarterbacking this squad. They have some things that they need to work on themselves in terms of, okay, they got to make some better mental judgments, because they made plenty of mental mistakes last year that did cost them games. They still went 7-6, but they certainly made some mental mistakes that you typically don't see often from Mike Gundy team. They also need to be able to stop the run. They were not good at stopping the run this year. And their offensive stars, they need some offensive stars to rise up and really contribute for this team, because the Big 12 in Oklahoma State, it's going to be it's going to be a lot of offense in that conference. I have a feeling about that. But that being said, I think that Oklahoma State is still a better team to this point than what Arizona State is. I don't see the Sun Devils beating Oklahoma State. So we'll say that Oklahoma State beats Arizona State. That puts them at 1-1. Now we go to game number 3, another home game, this time against Fresno State. Now, Fresno State is a team that is actually the defending Mountain West champions. But this Fresno State team that did end up winning 10 games this year, this was a team that was veteran loaded last year. And not only was there some veterans on this team, but they were led by their quarterback, Jake Heiner. Might have butchered that. Please don't roast me too hard in the comments. But Jake Heiner, he is now in the NFL. I don't remember off the top of my head where he's with, but he is in the NFL and not quarterbacking Fresno State anymore. Several other important stars are no longer on the team either, mainly because of graduation. So I could see Fresno State taking a step back, and since this game is going to be at home as well, I actually think Arizona State wins this game. I think they beat Fresno State, although Bulldogs should still be a solid team in the Mountain West. I think Fresno State falls to Arizona State, so that puts them at 2-1 before they start conference play. And it's 9 games in the Pac-12. They play a 9-game conference schedule, and they open up again at home, but they take on USC. So USC, we know how good USC is. Went to the Cotton Bowl, nearly won the Pac-12. Lincoln Riley got them to over 10 wins, and they have the defending Heisman Trophy winner in Caleb Williams. So if there's any chance for Arizona State to beat USC, they really need to be able to keep up with the USC Trojans, and I don't see that, so that's going to be a loss. However, they go for the first time on the road. They'll take on the California Golden Bears. I think that's their full name, but they take on California team that also struggled. They went 4-8. They really didn't have much juice on the offensive side of the ball. And they really didn't have a pass rush as well. And so it's just a team that really needs some playmakers. I don't know if Cal has sent playmakers or if they're going to develop, but in a close game, I think Arizona State wins this one. We'll call it a little bit of, no, we won't necessarily call it a toss-up. I think Arizona State, I feel comfortable with picking them over Cal. So 3-2, nearing the halfway point in the season, where they host Colorado. Colorado in a similar state of trying to get its team right. They went 1-11, but Coach Prime is back. Not back, but he's with the program now. He's in his first year. Added a lot of new transfers. Colorado could very well be a wild card. And at the very least, they're going to be a fun team to watch. I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch. We'll see if they end up going bowling or not. I don't think it would be a fair expectation for Colorado to go bowling, because even though the roster itself might be more talented, you got a lot of parts in spring and summer ball that really need to gel and become a team, right? But in this hypothetical, we're halfway through the season, so Colorado would have to do some sort of gelling, and I'm going to say Colorado wins this game. I think Colorado beats Arizona State. We'll call this a toss-up, though, because it could really go either way, but I'm leaning towards Colorado winning this game. So that puts them at 3-3. And then, these next 5 games that are on the schedule, it's going to be brutal. They're at Washington, and in the last pod, in pod number 1, I picked Washington to win the Pac-12. So if I can pick Washington to win the Pac-12, for that reason, it's fair for me to assume that Arizona State does not beat them on the road. So that's a firm L. Washington State. Washington State is after that. Another Washington team. This is also a home game. But Washington State's an interesting team. They are actually a team that needs more out of its offense. The defense is actually better than their offense. That's a really weird thing to say in 2023. I hope I never have to say that again. Cameron Ward is back for Washington State, but the offensive line is also questionable for the Cougars. But if Cameron Ward is able to get some time and find rhythm, this could be a dangerous offense. I'm also going to pick Washington State to beat Arizona State. I'm going in that general direction. Utah and UCLA and Oregon. This is where it gets really difficult. This is not going to be a fun time for Arizona State fans, right? So at Utah, Cameron Ward is, well, not Cameron Rising. Cameron Rising is back. Utah, a team that is the defending Pac-12 conference champions. I don't see them beating Arizona State. UCLA also has a pretty talented roster. Chip Kelly did a pretty good job of loading up in the transfer portal. UCLA is going to be good again. They may not have DTR, but UCLA is going to be a good team. They might also be in that conversation to go to the Pac-12 championship game. So don't sleep on the UCLA Bruins. That being said, Arizona State's on the road. I'm calling that an L for them as well. Oregon also going to be really tough, led by Bo Nix. We know how good this Oregon team is. They also, but they did end up losing quite a bit on both sides. So they do have Bo Nix, but Bo Nix is going to need some of the younger guys on this roster, talented guys for sure, because Dan Lanning's done a pretty good job recruiting up there in Oregon, but unproven guys. But at this point in the season, I expect Oregon to be firing on close to maybe what their ceiling is for the season. And I don't think Arizona State can match that either. So that's going to be another loss, which brings me to the Bring Back the Cup, the rivalry game to end the season. Arizona is the rival of Arizona State, the main rival. This is their final regular season game as well. And Arizona, they almost made it to a bowl game last year, 5-7. They did lose quite a bit in the transfer portal, but this can possibly be a dangerous team if depending on how the defense performs this year. So there's some promise on the Arizona Wildcats squad. Don't know if that'll lead them to a bowl game or not, but I do also have Arizona beating Arizona State. So let's see what we're working with. We picked Southern Utah to win. We got a Fresno State win, a Cal win as well. But after that, really no more wins. The only toss-up that we had was Colorado. So that being considered. So right now, I'm checking on FanDuel right now, and I'll have that graphic up as well, showing what the FanDuel is saying. So Arizona State's win over under is at 4.5 wins. And going through their schedule, just based off of how I'm feeling and doing some research of my own prior to this pod, the floor of this team is 3 wins. They'll at least not do worse than 3-9, but I don't see them going more than 4-8. So I don't really see, I don't see 5 wins on the schedule. I just don't see it. So if I'm betting on the Arizona State regular season over under, it is currently at 4.5 based off of what I'm seeing right now on the FanDuel website. This is as of July 24th. I would be more comfortable going with the under, but that's just my opinion. Let me know in your comments in the comment section what you guys think of Arizona State's football aspirations in 2023.